welcome back to the channel and welcome to today's video. Today we are making the squares that make up these bags. This one's actually not finished and these are the squares I make in the video. That's why it's not finished, because I only just did the video. What it is it's based off the traditional granny square stitch. So center start, work your way out. But it's also involving tapestry crochet where we change the colors to make a secondary pattern. If you look at this one, you can see the blue makes a secondary pattern that wraps all the way around the bag. So it's not a especially difficult pattern to make. That bag took 5 squares. This bag only took 4. This one took 8. I'll hold this one up. Makes a nice big shopper. And there's the patterning going around it. So you won't need lots of equipment. You will need a little bit of time. It doesn't take a long time. And we'll get started. I forgot to say, I'll tell you how to sew them up as well so that the pattern works. Now for the video. So today we're making this square, as you saw from the beginning. Now this is a square that's basically a granny square, but we are doing colour change to make a secondary pattern. Let me just show you one of the bags from the intro a little bit better. So as you can see, this is our square here, but if you sew it up correctly and match up the contrast colours, it makes a secondary pattern. Let's have a look at the other bag. It's a bit bigger. So that's it, showing you a little bit bigger. And you can see the grey crosses just a little bit more clearer on this bag. And before I forget and somebody asks, the handles on this one are just the mile a minute handle. And then I just put single crochet tabs on the end. So I know I'm going to get asked. So that's what I did for the handle for that one. This handle would have to be its own video, but if you want that, just put it in the comments and we'll do a video on this type of handle. This is what I think is called Russian braid work, but I could be wrong on the name of it. So if you want a video on the handles, let me know. Also, this bag here is 5 squares. The other bag, the green bag, is 8 squares. I'm actually just going to show you how to make the square today, which is these purple ones. So what you need is you need 3 colours. You need a background colour, which is usually a variegated or like a mottled colour. Doesn't have to be. That's what we've worked out. Then you want your first contrast, which generally, if it's got some of your first contrast in the background colour, that is really good, or it really complements the background. And then your third colour is a contrast to both. It's vastly different. So this is our colours up here. These are all double knits. The background colour is actually from the Needles brand. If you know Needles brand, it is slightly thicker than the other two. That is fine because it's our background colour. It will help hide when we carry these colours. So these are all double knit. I'm going to be using a 4.5mm. That is a little bit bigger than we'd normally use for these ones, but we are making a bag, so we want it to be fairly consistent. So it's smaller than this one uses, but bigger than that one uses. So it should even out. It would depend on your tension. So you may need to start and think, oh, that's too tight, I can't get it through, so you need to go bigger. Or, oh, that's too loose, you need to go smaller. So that's what I'm using. Now, every stitch on here is a granny stitch. It's one of the first square stitch patterns that you learn as a crocheter. There is no difficult stitches on here. It is mainly double crochets. There is some chains in the corners and we have a slip stitch join in the corner. It is a lot easier to hide your join if it's in the corner. I would not put my join anywhere on a side. It'll be too hard to hide. Just letting you know. So I'm showing you on the corner. So to start making the square, we need to get our first contrast yarn and we need to make a slip knot. And I'm going to try and go slowly on this so you can see what I'm doing. like so. Please excuse my finger, I've been doing hand sewing. I always lose a bit of my skin when I hand sew. To start the square, we are going to chain 4, 3 and 4. If you'd like to do magic ring, go right ahead. I'm doing a chain 4 because I'm going to work over the end, and I like to know there's a knot behind doing that. So when I join with a slip stitch, I've gone under the top 2 strands and then got the other strand below the hook, and then we just pull through. So that's our beginning slip knot for our chain 4 square. Now we chain 2, and then we start doing our granny clusters. We are going to need 4 sets of granny clusters, which are 3 stitches in each, and our first chains on each round do count as a stitch. So that is our first cluster, because our chain 2 is the first stitch. We will do 1 chain, and then we will do our next cluster. And as you can see, I am working over my end as I go, like I said I was going to. If you do magic ring, I would do all your first 4 clusters and join the row before tightening the ring. And then I would actually, even when you weave your end in from the end of this row, also weave the magic ring end in really securely. So on our 3rd cluster, I'm trying to go a bit slower because I've been told I'm a little bit too fast. I'm sorry, I'm trying. It's wanting to get all the projects done. I try and go faster and faster, but it doesn't make it good for videos. So we're on our last cluster, and 3. Now, because we only had a chain 2 at the beginning, I am going to go just 1 here, and then I'm going to slip stitch into the top of the second stitch. Can you see the second stitch? And what that does is the slip stitch becomes the top of the chain 2. You can see it's now in line with the chain 2. It just gives it the right height. So that's all we need this yarn for. Snip that off, pull that through, and put that out the way. So that's our first little square. Now what I'm just going to do at the back, I'm just going to tidy up that little bit. Because we've worked over it, I can now just trim this last little bit off so it stays tidy at the back. And there you go. Now at the moment you can weave that in. I'm not going to bother right now because I want to show you what to do next. But I would make all your centers, however many you want for your bag. Make all the centers first, because you don't need this yarn after this first row. So make them all, weave all the ends in, and then you're ready to go. But our next thing we're going to do is this contrast yarn. So this yarn matches in with that one. This one doesn't have anything in that one. You need them to be distinct, or yeah, distinct, not instinct. Instinct's a different thing. You want it to be distinct from each other. And I like to start when I'm introducing a colour where it's not attached to the row already. I like to start with a standing double crochet. So that's my slip knot here. Bring down low enough, sorry. So that's my slip knot, and that's my first loop. And I'll show you what I mean. So you pick up your yarn, and then you want to, I'm not going to join where the hole was, where the slip knot is. I'm going to the next chain 1, and then I'm going to pick up a loop and then finish the stitch. So that has given me a standing double crochet. There's no chains, and it's not going to look different to any other stitch in the row. So we're going to do the first part of our corner, which is just a double crochet, 3 double crochets. So that's that one there. Now this I'm going to pull to the side because we're going to deal with that later. we are not putting any chains between the clusters on the sides. So we jump straight to the next chain 1 and do our next clusters, which will be our first full corner. So that's our first granny cluster for the corner. Now we want to chain 2 and do the next granny cluster in the same space. See, it's in the same hole as the last cluster. So do that. And then we jump to the next chain 1. So you got 1 cluster between each corner. 2 and 3. Chain 2. And 3. Hopefully my hands aren't in the way too much for you to be able to see. Now, this one might be a little bit hard to see because this is the one that the chain 2 was on. So you just got to make sure you're going in the right spot. So far, this is just a normal granny square. Nothing fancy as yet. We have just changed colour. That's the only thing that's different. Keep that string out the way. Of course, it comes back in the way every chance it gets. And 3. All right, pull that right out the way. And now we do the other half of the first corner. That way our join is right on the chain 2s in the corner. Now, because we started with a standing double crochet, this is actually already the full height. So I take 1 of the corner chains off because the slip stitch gives you the distance of another chain. And now this corner is the same size as every other corner. So I also forgot to do something there. So we will just put that down. We will find the end. So this is the end of the contrast yarn, which is the background yarn. We put a slip knot in that. And I just undo the last bit I just did. Go back through there, pull that all out. Because we want to introduce this colour on this slip stitch. Like so. Pull all the actual other threads off to the side. Now chain 2, because we attached it through the slip stitch rather than a standing double crochet. And we do another round, making sure we keep all the strings at the back out the way, of just plain granny squares. Now we are going to do a center one this time, you know, the first single cluster on the side. There are no chains between the corner and the side. So straight into that. And then now onto the rest of the cluster. So this is yet another normal granny square row. The next row is when we start putting the pattern in. 1 and 2. And then like this. What I'll do is I will be back when this row is done. Well, yeah, when it's done and I'm closing the row, so I can show you how to bring this yarn up ready to use it on the next row. So we got our first row done. Let's just move that out of the way. And I have just done the 2 crochet chains in the corner. Now we're going to go across. This is our chain 2. We're going to go across to the top of the second stitch, and we're going to get the other end out of the way. Now this is important. This is how we bring up our unused colour every time. So it's just going to lay over the crochet hook, and then you're going to slip stitch wrapping around it. What that does is it just brings the colour up so it's available to be used on this row. Now, because our join is in the corner, it will always be done in the background colour. So that corner will be the same every row we do. Do our 2 chains. Now, we need to do a full double crochet, and then what we need to do is to do the second double crochet, but get it to the last pull through. So to finish this double crochet, we need 1 more pull through. But what we're going to do is we're going to switch the colour. So then we drop the other colour, we pick up the plain purple and just pull that through. So that has changed the colour but also finished the stitch. Now before I go any further, what we are going to be doing is these 2 clusters here, we're going to follow all the way out on every side. So every row we do, the corner piece will be getting bigger. If you look at this one here, right, we're at this one here, this row here. So it's the 1, 2, 3, we're on the 4th row out. And if you look the next time that it comes up, it's up here, that is on the 6th row out, and it is 2 stitches away from the corner. So every time we do this row, it'll be 1 more cluster out, because that's the way clusters work in the granny square pattern. We will have a row of variegated between each carry row. That's because they go between the clusters, so these ones are offset to these ones. So every, I'm going to say second row, because we started using the purple on the second row. So every second row is a carry row. Every first row is just, not that one, every first row is just using the variegated background colour. So getting back to our square, we've now changed to colour. We need to do our normal granny squares, but what we want to do is we want to lay the colour we're not using. If you can see it here, I'm just going to lay it behind the stitches. So you can't see it here, it's just laying behind the top of the stitches. And we're going to do the clusters just like we normally would. So 3 DCs into the indicated space. I think I need arrows on my fingernails to indicate the space. Alright, so now we've got our second one. But we only need 2 clusters of this colour every time we use it. So on the last stitch we do, get it to the last pull through, drop this colour, pick up this colour. You don't need to pull this very tight, and just pull it through. So that's how you do the colour change. Now when you're doing the corner, lay it to the corner and do the first half so that it's behind. I will just do this and I will show you. So that's the first half of the corner, chain 2. Now let me just show you the back. As you can see, that is the carry for the background colour. This here is the carry for the contrast colour. Don't worry about these. We will fix them on the next row. We just need to get it all on. So now that we've done the first half of the corner, I would just loosen up that so that you can make sure you're getting it. And then when you finish the stitch, pull it down a little bit. 1, 2. Now, once again, we need to colour change. You've got to be aware of where you've got to change colour, because you need to do it the stitch before you need it. So we just pull that through, and now we have done the corner and we've colour changed, ready for the next cluster. And that's all you do to colour change on the ones you need to do it on. Now there are other patterns using the granny square stitch where you change colour in different places. There's also ones where you start introducing the variegated one so that this line goes out rather than up. It's your choice, whatever you like. I'm just showing you this one. If you look online, you may find lots of other ones that make even more secondary patterns. So it's a whole new way of doing granny squares. Multicolour grannies. So just get the last one done with the colour change. I always bring this one to the front because I need to know where it is when I change the colours. So that's those first 2 rows done. So you keep doing this around, and then I will come back when we join this one up. So we've got that row done, and I've just done the chain 2 in the corner. So we just go over here to the top of the second DC, lay the unused yarn, you know, the one we're not using, over the shaft of the hook, and then pull your thread through. So you're pulling through the background thread. Chain 2, and now this is what I do. This thread here, we don't need this for the secondary row, or first row, second row, this row. We don't need this yarn for every second row. So we just pull it off to the side and then crochet as normal. Now, let's do this and I'll show you something. You can see here, this yarn, when we did it, when we come, we will go across like that and pull it so you're not seeing it. But I will show you here how we pick up the carry yarn. So we're about to do a stitch. This whole row will be done in this thread, and this is how we hide our carry stitches, you know, the carrying. So I'll just put it through the hole here. Now we come to the back, and that's the carry there. That one there is actually all right. The stitches will naturally cover that one, the first one, because it's coming on an angle down and it's not going to be visible. But the next one we can show you. So we've done that one. Still no chains between. So this here, this slightly more orange one, is our carry yarn. We just slip under it and then finish the stitches as usual. You want to get all 3 DCs of the cluster under that yarn, because what it does is it spreads it out. This is why I said you don't need, when you're carrying the yarn, you don't need to pull the yarn tight, because this next row will fix it. So this one's now the contrast yarn. You can see it right there. So we just go under it and then finish this clusters as normal, making sure every cluster is picking it up. Now in the corner, you can't actually see the carry thread because there's so many stitches there. So you don't need to worry about it. It's really only on the sides, and just carry on with your corners as normal. Let's just do this half of the corner. So that's our first row after our carry row. And if you look here, the only one you can see a bit of is that one, and it's only a small part. The others have been picked up. So I will do the rest of these the same way and get back to this corner, and I will show you what it looks like. I'll be back in a minute. So we've done that row, and I'll show you the back. So we've picked up the carry yarn all the way around. Ignore that one. I missed that one because it was actually quite close and tight in, so I didn't bother with that one, but all the rest we've picked it up. So we're now at this corner, and we do have a visible carry yarn right there. So we're going to go below it and finish the corner like so. And see, it's pulled it right up. 2 and 3. And 1 and 2, and then reach across like normal to the top of the second DC, and then lay this over, because the next yarn is also next row is also a carry row. So that's done that, and then it's trapped the carry yarn. This one's only just happened, bringing it up for the next row, but we've trapped the other one within this side of the corner. So now you just carry on 2 this is going to be a carry row, so we do need that one to come with us, so we'll keep it on this side, not put it across like we did the last one. Do the second. Now, because this is the next carry row out, we don't change colour in the corner, we change colour in the next one, because then we'll need it in the one after. This is what I was saying before. We had to change colour in the corner in this one because the very next one was the coloured one. But now it's got bigger, it's further away. So we just finish this one as normal. Making sure to keep your carry yarn at the top, but the back of the next row of stitches. And the next one. And then the next DC, we get to the last pull through and then pick up the secondary colour and pull it through. Now we're ready to do the cluster that is following out on every second row, every carry row. So that's all you do to do this kind of square. So what I'm going to do is for all my squares, we've done 8 rows, I think it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, we've done 8 rows. That's the size I've done, because I found doing less rows, you have to finish on a carry row so that your carried yarn is on the outside edge. See how this last row, it's on the outside edge? That way when you join up your next square, you can match it up and it gives you the effect. So you've got to remember that. Finish on a carry row. So I found the pattern becomes most visible around the 8th row. So that's 3 complete carry rows out. You can do less, but I would have more of a contrast between these two yarns to do less. Up to you, your choice. I'm just showing you what I did. So I will finish off this square to the last row, and I will just show you how I finish the row, and then I'll also show you how I join 2 squares together so that the lines match up. I use actual mattress stitch with a wool needle. You can crochet them together, but I find the mattress stitch gives you a better finish. So I'll just do this and then I'll show you how to stitch them up. All right, so we got the last row done. So we've got 1, 2, 3 carry rows from the middle, and I could have stopped carrying the contrast row back here, but I actually carried on carrying it because I like to, when I join, so I got to do the 2 chains there, and then I join to the top of the second double crochet, and then I bring this across and that finishes the row. 1 and 2. Cut yourself a decent tail. Alright, bring that right down so it's snugged in. What I like to do is to tie these 2 together. That way, because this last row, you can still see all the carries. So it is possible for one of them to get caught and pull out. So that's why I make sure this is all flat, or as flat as I can make it. Yes, it's pretty flat. Then I tie them together, and I use a surgeon's knot on the end. That's just a reef knot with an extra twist. So normal reef knot, a surgeon's knot. And that's what I do. That way, this is not going to be able to be pulled out. So that's how you do the square. Now, before we finish the video, I'm going to show you how I use mattress stitch to join 2 of them up. Now, normally you would use the background colour so that any visible stitches will blend in. But I'm going to be using this yarn so you can see what I'm doing. So get yourself a reasonably generous amount. Then tie yourself a little knot in the end. Now, I have a bit of a tail so I can hide it later. I've threaded on a wool needle, not a huge one, around the size of what you're using. Now you want to, when you're joining up granny squares, you don't want to have your joins in the same place. You want to have them offset. So I would probably join those two edges together because my two ends are apart. And then we get this, we find, I usually start in the corner, and I start, now you've got 2 chains in each corner. I use 1 chain as my beginning. So I've come from inside the chain to the outside. Pull it through so you got your knot. And now, hopefully you can see this, I'm going in at the base of the V. And then I'm splitting the ply above my knot. So pull that down, pull that down, pull that down. And what that should do, if we come back through the hole where we started, we now have the knot snugged into the hole. You see my knots right there? It's underneath. So now, making sure we got the right ones, we pick up the other square, we find the 2 corner ones, and we want to echo the other side. So that's basically the stitch that was done on this side. We've done the same stitch. So we pull that through. Now I'm not going to pull this tight to begin with because I want you to see what I'm doing. So now on this one, we go back in the hole where we came out. Try not to split your yarn, and then go to the next V. Of course, your thread while it's long will keep twisting around. And then this one, back in where you went, into the next V. And I think that's probably enough stitches. You don't want to do too many stitches because then they won't pull together. So now we'll pull these together, wiggle them around so they go tight. And it's snugged them right in. So now both of these stitches are joined. You pull them apart a little bit to see where your stitch was. So this one is coming out of here. So we go in here and out the next V. Pull that through. Now we go in there and out the next V. So what we've done here, we're echoing here. All your stitches are the same on all your sides, so it should work out. And then I'm going to do one more. I usually do about 3 and then I pull the yarn tight. That way I can see that I'm lining up or not. Alright, so we've got 3 stitches and then we pull them tight. And there we go. So the only part of my thread that you can see is my knot in this window here. So I pull that away. You can't see any of my sewing thread. And if you turn to the back, it's also quite hard to see. You see a little bit there, but not much of it. So that's how you sew them together. You keep going. I might get to the, I'll get to the contrast so you can see how it works. So you're going in and then out in the middle of the V's that make the top of the stitches. Now we go to the next one on here. So now we're above the hole between the clusters. So the one on the other side should be above the hole, which it is. In and out. See, there's the hole. There's the hole for the top. We've just done the bottom. So they are still matching up. One will be ahead of the other, and it's usually the one where you're not started. So now we pull it, and they vanish. And carry on. Like I said, I'll just get to the corner. Of course, the thread keeps hooking around, but that's what it does. Next one. I want to try and keep it in the center of the V's. And one more. So now this last one has got us onto the last DC of that cluster. And now we pull them tight and you can't see them. I'm only using my thread single, I haven't doubled it. You really don't need to. If I was, when I sew up squares, I generally do all my short sides first. So like my seams that are the width of only one square, do all of those first. And then when you're doing longer joins, do a back stitch every now and then, just so that if something snags, it's not going to pull your whole seam apart. I will do a back stitch in a minute just to show you what it is. I don't actually need one on a short square, but I've shown you what to do, so I'll just show you. Right, so this stitch here has got us to the one before the contrast, so it's almost above the stitch gap, and then this one has got us to the one before, so they are still matching up. So I'll just pull them tight, and you see how the clusters are matching up as well, which is what we want. So this one gets me to the first contrast yarn, and then this one gets me to the first contrast yarn. So what I'm going to do now is I will show you how to do a back stitch in mattress stitch. So we just get these tight, and then what you want to do is you want to repeat the stitch you just did. It's going to be a little bit harder because we just pulled them tight. So I've just gone back through that one and then back through that one. So you just basically a back stitch in mattress stitch is just repeating the last stitch again. And that's how we join them up. So now the next couple will join up the contrast yarns. This will be my last one, promise. And that one. All right, so that's how you do it. And just carry along and then weave all your ends in and sew your ends in. So that's how you make the multicolored granny squares. So for this one, I'm probably going to make a sling bag, which is, that'll be the front and the back. And then this one will be like this on the corner and another one here. And it just makes a small sling bag. I think that's what this one will be, because then I only have to do one more square. Then we put a top edge on it and handles, but you know, that's how you do it. So I hope this was a good tutorial for you to learn how to do this technique. I'd love to see what you make with it. And please like, share and subscribe. Subscribe so you know when we do the next one. I'm thinking of doing that almost willow square pattern that's around because it's only as a diagram, which I like using, but I know a lot of people have trouble with diagrams. So I'm thinking of doing it's not the willow square. It's the more complicated one that people think is the willow square. I'll have to try and find the real name for it. So I'm thinking of doing that one next. So subscribe so you know when I'm doing it. It doesn't cost you anything. It's free. All it does is let you know when we've done another one. And it also helps the channel grow and more people see it. And like and share so other people can see it as well, because I think this is a really good technique to learn. And as you can see, other than the bits I've got to weave in, the insides are quite neat and tidy. And I will see you on the next video.